I am an 80s generation child. I did raise myself with the permission of my parents to listen to George Carlin with his great audio, can you believe it, cassette tape of A Place for Our Stuff. Now, if we paraphrase that late, great, brilliant, politically correct, and incorrect comedian, we can say a place for our shit. What I mean by that is that people need to remember that when they're producing a life, they are producing a place for their shit. But the reality is we can't take our shit with us when we travel, according to Carlin, and we can't necessarily do it other than we take a smaller amount of our shit with us. What I have learned in my homelessness is that I don't need a lot of shit. I do need occasionally a place that I can go and spend $10 per se at what I love, a Love's rest stop and truck stop, to take a safely secured, presumably, shower for myself to clean myself up. What I do know that I need in the world, which the police officers lied and stole from me my rights from, is my business titled vehicle. You see, under federal law, they didn't have the right to commandeer my vehicle, but that female officer in Indianapolis who fucked me over with the help of a sibling who lied, stole, and cheated me out of my life and its work, just thought she'd impound my vehicle. So as my vehicle sat in impound illegally, it was racking up charges because I guess it cost, like a hotel room or maybe a trailer lot, $30 a day for them to allow my car to sit on their junkyard lot. So as a result, that thing went up to around $600. Now, since I had lost my work, and by choice, I chose to quit that company for its immoral behavior of management. And it was sort of a mutually agreeable thing because they were getting the perfect little old elderly people who were ready to love the death out of that company. Good for them. But I was prepared to go back to my business entrepreneurship to make a living. And when I did that, I was at a loss in that someone had closed my bank accounts, ruined them actually, by their lies of the willingness to allow a bill to not get paid that I was promised would be paid, and openly it closed and crashed my whole account with overdrafts and over things. And apparently the bank just decided to take away my rights instead of letting me know about it and just close the whole fucking thing down, which makes it mean because I can then not get a bank account in the future. So I have to live my life in the day-to-day aspects of cash. Now, as a person who is of intelligence and as a person who knows how to handle himself, I know what it costs for me to eat, either at a simple and somewhat reasonably healthy fast food restaurant in a good little quality city that has some affluence and influence and decent restaurants of typical national brands of which I trust my food consumption. I know what it costs me to live for the day. I also know how much I can buy and consume and create in terms of cooking in a skillet, should I so choose, from a simple little grocery or type of an outlet store where you can buy basically food for the day. I also know that my money can sometimes go just a wee bit farther in a place that's more of a box store that has larger packaged goods for lesser prices. So I'm pretty clear on what it costs for me to feed myself. I'm also aware of what it would cost me to feed myself, my wife, and possibly the 2 children that she should be schlepping along with her based on their age and demographic and inability to survive on their own. Now, does that mean I'm responsible and liable for them? No, doesn't mean that. Does it mean I should? Absolutely, because I am the parent of the father of that space, should she so choose my life. When my first spouse chose my life, I became the parent of a marvelous child. Now, he was hell on wheels through most of that situation, but openly that's okay. We all learn from that experience of how to parent, how not to parent, what works, what doesn't work, because I took my life weight in money and invested it in how to handle an out-of-control teenager. Now, did it help me at all in my classroom? No, because I didn't have out-of-control teenagers very often allowed to stay in my classroom. If they slipped through the cracks of our qualification process, meaning our customer qualification process, then I got rid of them quickly because I don't need somebody else's child screwing around with somebody else's child. What I mean is when we had teen or group classes, we learned quickly whether it was effective or not to teach a teenager a foreign language that way or not. If you're in a 30-person classroom, there's the control of the number of the village. But if you're in a small team classroom, you don't have the same controls. Now, an educator and an experienced person knows how to handle a team. A leader knows how to lead a team, and a leader also knows how to teach self-leadership. If you want to get somewhere, motherfucker, in life, you have to learn to self-lead. But sometimes people lead themselves into shit. Now, in the beginning of our story, we were talking about a place for our stuff or a place for our shit. What I realize is in life, I don't need a lot of shit, but what I do need is the freedom of movement, which is authorized to me by the Civility Act or the Civil Rights Movement of America. What I also know is that I don't need to be enslaved to someone, and we got rid of slavery a long time ago, not only for the black slaves of Africa and whatnot, which we have learned through historic film and television and books and whatnot, and works by great black authors who shared their story, like the great film The Help, and the funny scenes and the horrible scenes that we saw in that between the whites and the blacks and whatnot. But the truth is, there was plenty of white people who were indentured service in Europe, England, and America. So it wasn't just a matter of color in terms of slavery, in terms of people who are paid in servitude or kept in servitude. You see, if you don't want to be a slave, then don't enslave yourself to someone or the theft of someone's property. Once you enslave yourself to something that is illegal and highly immoral, you become a slave. Now, a place for my shit means I just need to have a place to store my shit. So when I still had my fully paid for, lawfully titled, licensed business entity vehicle, I had a place for my shit and a way to get there and a way to go, a way to introduce myself, a way to carry a suit coat, a way to stay clean, a way to do a lot of things. But when law enforcement officers illegally took my fully licensed business vehicle, in other words, they weren't allowed to under federal law to do that, but when they did so in their foolishness of not knowing the laws, I lost my business vehicle because they didn't give a shit at that time, and I didn't have all the details about the law at that time. But I lost my vehicle because I couldn't afford to get it out of impound after the number of days I got schlepped into a place that I shouldn't have been in the first place. You see, judges often make malfeasance decisions. In other words, they know what to do is correct, or they don't know what to do is correct, or they just want to practice malpractice, which is, I'm going to screw your life into the ground. And unfortunately, I had a female judge that was just like that. And she had her little counterpoint boyfriends in judges' uniforms. One guy who was like Jim Belushi in that he had his judge uniform on, but he had shorts on underneath that. I didn't really like the idea of seeing his bare legs, but maybe it was hot that day. I can't remember. What I can tell you is that I'm telling you an honest story. An honest story of a tragedy of life. And since the time that a woman lied about her relationship with me, my life has been in the fucking toilet. Because everyone who wanted to hit me for some reason that they were mad at me for decided to do so. Now, was that lawful of siblings? No. Was it immoral? Exceptionally. Are they going to face hell? Absolutely. And why? Because they chose to sin. They chose to lie, they chose to steal, they chose to cheat, and they chose to do it against another human being. Now, whether we're related by blood or not, it doesn't really matter. People's opinion about your life and my life doesn't matter to God. What God puts in our soul of what is right to do for our soul is our right to pursue. If we have people who are loving in our family of choice, they are supportive of our goals to succeed. The whole purpose of the American continent was founded based on the concept of I have the right to try to succeed. I have the right to freedom of employment. I have the right to freedom of mobility, and I don't have to be pissed on, I don't have to be stalked, I don't have to be harassed because of the color of my skin, the dick in my pants, or anything I choose to do, love, or be.